Marcus had always been a fixer. For 50 years, he worked in the military engineering corps, fixing broken machines and broken systems. For another 15 years, he worked as a civilian contractor, still fixing things. Now at 68 years old, his hands still remembered how to work, even though his body was falling apart. 6 months ago, the doctors gave him bad news. Stage 4 cancer, they said. Maybe 1 year left, maybe less. Marcus did not feel afraid. He had lived a long life. He had seen many things. He had tried to save many people, and most of them were gone now. He was tired of trying. He was tired of failing. One day, Marcus found an advertisement on a salvage broker's website. It was for a space station called Meridian Station. The listing said the station was old, very old, abandoned for about 200 years. It was far away in the outer regions of space where few people went. The price was very low because nobody wanted it. The station was too broken, too far away, too expensive to fix. Marcus read the listing 3 times. Then he made his decision. He used the last of his money to buy the station. He hired a transport ship to take him there. He packed a small bag with clothes, tools, and medical supplies. Then he left Earth behind. When Marcus arrived at the station, he saw it floating alone in the darkness of space. It was huge, like a giant metal skeleton hanging in nothing. The solar panels were broken and hanging down like dead fingers. The lights were all dark. Everything was silent and empty. Marcus felt something inside his chest. It was not pain from the cancer. It was something else. It was peace. He put on his space suit and entered the station through the old airlock. The door opened with a loud hiss and stale air hit his face. The air was cold and smelled like old metal and dust. Marcus took a slow breath. This was his new home. Inside, the station was like a dead place. The corridors were long and dark. The walls were covered in frost and dust. Pipes were frozen solid. Machines sat silent and broken. There were no lights, no sounds, no signs of life. Everything was exactly as it had been for 200 years. Marcus walked through the empty halls slowly. His magnetic boots made soft sounds on the metal floor. That was the only noise in the entire station. He felt very alone. And he liked it. Marcus found the main engineering bay on the second day. It was a huge room filled with massive machinery, old computers, and control panels. Everything was covered in a thick layer of dust. Some pipes had broken and leaked their contents long ago, creating hard, frozen puddles on the floor. But underneath all the damage and dust, Marcus could see that the machines were well made. They were built to last. They were built to work in space for many years. He smiled for the first time in months. Marcus set up a small living space in the command section of the station. He found a room with a bed, a small table, and a window that looked out at the stars. He cleaned the room carefully. He put his few belongings inside. He set up his medical equipment and his pain medications on a small shelf. Then he began to work. The first thing Marcus did was restore power to the secondary systems. The main power plant was dead, destroyed long ago by age and neglect. But there was a backup fusion cell, a small energy generator that was still functioning on its own. Marcus carefully connected it to the station's main power grid. Slowly, lights began to flicker on in the corridors. One by one, systems came to life. Next, he worked on the environmental systems. The air recyclers were clogged with dust and frozen particles. Marcus spent 3 days cleaning them, replacing damaged parts, and getting them to work again. Soon, the station was filling with fresh, breathable air. The temperature began to rise from freezing to a comfortable level. Every day, Marcus worked in the station. He would wake up in the morning, eat a simple breakfast, and then go to the engineering bay. He would spend the whole day fixing broken machines, replacing old parts, and cleaning systems that had been dead for decades. His hands moved with memory and skill, even as his body ached. The cancer pain was always there, in his chest and his back, but the work kept his mind focused on something else. As the weeks passed, the station slowly came back to life. Lights burned in the corridors where there had been only darkness. Environmental systems hummed quietly, processing air and water. Old equipment that had been silent for centuries suddenly started working again. The station was waking up. Marcus found joy in this work. Not the kind of happiness he had felt when he was younger and had a family and hope for the future. This was different. This was a quiet kind of satisfaction. Every machine he fixed was one small victory against the darkness. Every system he restored was proof that he still had skill and purpose, even though his body was dying. Sometimes, Marcus would sit in the observation deck and look out at the stars. The stars never changed. They were always there, burning in the darkness, indifferent and beautiful. Marcus would sit for hours and just watch them. He would think about his life, about all the people he had tried to save, about all the failures and losses. But now in this quiet place, those thoughts did not hurt as much. Days became weeks. Weeks became months. Marcus fell into a simple routine. Wake, work, eat, sleep. The same thing every day. No variety, no surprises, no pain beyond what the cancer gave him. And he found that he liked this. He liked the simplicity. He liked having a purpose, even if that purpose was just fixing old machines in an abandoned station. Marcus knew that he was dying. He could feel it in his body. But here, in this forgotten place, death did not seem so terrible. Here he could work with his hands. Here he could create something, fix something, make something work again. Here he was not a failure. Here he was useful. The station hummed around him, slowly coming back to life under his careful hands. Marcus had come to this forgotten place to die. But as the weeks passed, he began to think that maybe, just maybe, he might live a little longer first. 3 months had passed since Marcus arrived at Meridian Station. The cancer in his chest was getting worse. Some days he could barely breathe. Some days the pain was so strong that he had to sit down and wait for it to pass. But Marcus did not stop working. Work was the only thing that kept his mind away from the pain. On this particular morning, Marcus decided to explore the lower levels of the station. Most of the station was empty and broken, but the lower levels were different. They were older than the rest of the station. The metal down there was thicker, and the walls were covered with markings that Marcus did not recognize. These lower levels had been storage areas, he thought. Places where important things had been kept long ago. Marcus put on his suit and took his scanner with him. The scanner was an old device, but it still worked. It could detect life signs, energy sources, and unusual materials. As Marcus walked down the dark corridors of Level 7, the scanner suddenly started to beep. There was something ahead. Something that should not be there. Marcus walked faster. The scanner was beeping louder now. He came to a section of the corridor where the wall had collapsed. A large piece of metal blocked the passage, but there was a small opening above it. Marcus used his cutting tools to make the opening larger. He worked carefully, slowly, trying not to disturb anything that might be dangerous. When the opening was big enough, Marcus climbed through. On the other side he found something that made him stop and stare. In the middle of the small room sat a machine that looked different from everything else on the station. It was smooth and clean, without the rust and dust that covered the rest of the station. It was shaped like a long box about 2 meters tall. On the front of the box was a clear window made of special glass. Behind the glass, Marcus could see something inside. It was a person. Marcus stepped closer slowly. His old heart was beating fast. The scanner in his hand was going crazy, beeping and flashing lights. The display showed that the machine was still working. It was powered by something very old and very small. The window of the machine showed him more details now. The person inside was young, much younger than Marcus. The person had skin that looked silver like mercury. Along the body, Marcus could see patterns like scales. On the back, there were structures that looked like they might have been wings once, but now they were small and folded up tight. Marcus looked at the machine more carefully. There was writing on the side, ancient writing that he did not recognize. But there was also a date. The date said the person inside had been sleeping for 320 years. Marcus knew he should call for help. Protocol said he should report this to the authorities. But Marcus was alone in a forgotten station, far from any authority. And besides, he was a dying man who had come here to die. What did protocol matter to him? He studied the machine carefully. He could see control panels with buttons and screens. Most of the screens were dark, but a few small lights still glowed. The machine was designed to keep the person inside alive for a very long time. It was designed to preserve them, to protect them, to wait. Marcus spent the next hour studying the machine. He used his scanner to understand how it worked. He looked at the power source, a tiny fusion cell that should have been dead for 200 years but somehow was still working. He read what he could of the ancient writing. And slowly he began to understand what he had found. This was a cryogenic pod. A machine that froze people and kept them alive indefinitely. The person inside had been put into this pod deliberately. They had been put to sleep on purpose, waiting for a future that never came. Marcus made a decision. He did not think about it for very long. He had spent his whole life making decisions that he later regretted. He had spent his whole life trying to save people and failing. But this was different. This time maybe he could save someone. He began the revival process. It took many hours. The machine had ancient systems that worked very slowly. First, Marcus had to warm the pod. The temperature inside began to rise, degree by degree. Marcus sat outside the pod and drank cold coffee and watched the numbers on the display climb higher. He thought about what he was doing. He thought about whether it was right or wrong. But he did not stop the process. After 8 hours, the pod began to hiss. Steam rose from the seals around the edges of the clear window. Inside, Marcus could see the person beginning to move slightly. The revival was working. The lid of the pod cracked open with a loud noise. More steam came out, and suddenly the person inside was gasping for air. They had not breathed real air in 320 years. Marcus moved quickly. The person inside was coughing and choking. Their silver skin was wet with the fluids from inside the pod. Their eyes were opening and closing. Marcus reached down and carefully supported their head. He had done this before, long ago in the military. He knew how to help someone wake up from deep sleep. The person was small, maybe young, maybe only 17 or 18 years old. Their eyes opened and looked right at Marcus. The eyes were gold, like liquid gold, and they were full of fear and confusion. The person gasped something in a language that Marcus did not understand, words that sounded old and strange. "Easy," Marcus said gently. "You are okay. You are safe now." But even as he said these words, Marcus wondered if they were true. He had opened a door that had been closed for 3 centuries. He had awakened someone from a dead past. What would happen now? What had he done? The gold eyes stared at him, full of questions and terror. And Marcus realized that his life, his simple, quiet death on a forgotten station, had just changed forever. Her name was Eleanor, at least that is what the old records in the cryogenic pod said. She had been asleep for 320 years, and when she woke up, she did not know where she was or who she was anymore. Everything was wrong. Everything was strange. For the first 3 days, Eleanor barely spoke. She sat in the station's medical room, wrapped in blankets, shaking. Her gold eyes watched Marcus constantly, as if she was trying to understand what he was. She said things in her old language, words that no living person had heard in centuries. Marcus sat with her, brought her food and water, and tried to be calm and patient. On the 4th day, Eleanor spoke in broken modern English. "Where?" she asked, pointing around the room. "Where is this place?" "This is a space station," Marcus said slowly and carefully. "It is called Meridian Station. You were sleeping inside a machine for a very long time." "How long?" Eleanor asked. Her voice was small and frightened. 320 years, Marcus said. "Maybe more." Eleanor's gold eyes grew wide. She looked down at her silver hands, at the scales on her skin, as if she was seeing herself for the first time. She started to cry. She cried for hours, and Marcus did not know what to do, so he just sat with her and let her cry. Over the next few weeks, Eleanor learned to speak modern English. She learned it very quickly, faster than any normal person could learn a language. It was clear that her mind was designed to learn and adapt. Marcus showed her records and videos that explained what had happened in the 300 years she had been asleep. He showed her that her people were gone. He showed her that her entire civilization had disappeared into history. "My people," Eleanor said one day, sitting with Marcus in the observation deck, looking out at the stars. "They call me dragon-touched. My mother and father, they chose this for me. Genetic integration program, they said. We were supposed to be strong. We were supposed to be fast. We were supposed to be better in space than normal humans." Marcus listened carefully. He did not interrupt her. "I was 17 years old when they put me in the pod," Eleanor continued. "They said that I would sleep for maybe 50 years. They said that when I woke up, there would be new colonies in space. There would be new people like me. There would be a whole civilization of dragon-touched people among the stars." She turned to look at Marcus. "But there is nothing. Everyone is gone. I am the last one." Marcus did not know what to say. He understood loss. He understood being alone. He understood what it felt like to be the last of something. "I am alone," Eleanor said quietly. "I am the only one left." "No," Marcus said. "You are not alone. I am here." Eleanor looked at him with her gold eyes. For the first time she did not look so frightened. She looked at this old, sick man who had saved her life, and something changed in her face. As the days passed, Eleanor became stronger. The fear in her eyes faded. She started to explore the station with Marcus. She asked questions about everything. How did the machines work? Why was this corridor built this way? What did that ancient symbol mean? Marcus realized that Eleanor's mind was brilliant. Her genetic heritage had given her an intuitive understanding of technology. She could look at a broken machine and understand how to fix it, sometimes better than Marcus could. One afternoon, Marcus was working on the hydroponic system, trying to get the plant-growing chambers to work again. Eleanor came and stood beside him, watching. Then, without asking, she reached out and adjusted something on the machine. The whole system suddenly started to work better. "How did you know?" Marcus asked, surprised. "I do not know," Eleanor said. I just understood. My people were engineers. We built ships. We built stations. We built things to survive in space. Maybe this understanding is in my blood. Marcus nodded. He understood that. He had always been a fixer. It was in his blood too. That was why he had come to this station. That was why he was here now, teaching a girl from 300 years in the past how to repair broken machines. Why do you come here to die? Eleanor asked him one evening while they were working together in the engineering bay. Marcus stopped working. He had not expected that question. How did you know? He asked. Your medical records, Eleanor said. I read them. Your body is very sick. The cancer is very bad. You should be in a hospital. You should be getting treatment. But you are here instead, in this empty station, doing nothing but fixing old machines. Marcus set down his tools. He looked at Eleanor, at this young woman from a dead world, and he decided to tell her the truth. Everyone I ever tried to save got hurt, he said slowly. Everyone I ever tried to help stopped existing. I was a soldier for 50 years. I fixed machines that were used in wars. I tried to save people, but mostly they died anyway. I got tired of trying. I got tired of failing. So I came here to die alone, where I could not hurt anyone else. Eleanor was quiet for a long time. Then she said, You saved me. Yes, Marcus said. And I am still here, Eleanor said. I am still alive. You did not fail with me. Marcus looked at this young woman from the past, this last dragon-touched person in all of the universe, and he realized something. He had not failed. He had done something right. He had saved a life. Maybe his life had not been all failures after all. We are the same, Eleanor said. Both the last of something. Both alone. But now we are not alone anymore. Marcus reached out and Eleanor took his hand. Her scaled fingers felt warm in his old hand. And for the first time in many years, Marcus felt like maybe, just maybe, there was still a reason to live. Eleanor was monitoring the old communication systems when she made the discovery. The ancient arrays still worked, she found. They still transmitted signals into the darkness of space. One evening she sat in the communications room and sent out a simple message, repeating over and over, alive. Recovering. Station Meridian online. Marcus found her there, staring at the screens, her gold eyes reflecting the light of the displays. Eleanor, what did you do? He asked, but he already knew the answer. I sent a signal, Eleanor said. Someone should know that we are here. Someone should know that this station is alive again. Marcus closed his eyes. He had known this day would come. He had hoped it would come later, much later, when he was already gone. But Eleanor was young. Eleanor wanted to live. Eleanor wanted to be part of the universe again. Okay, Marcus said quietly. It is done now. 36 hours later, a ship appeared on the station's sensors. It was a large commercial vessel, registered to something called the Nexus Collective. The ship did not send friendly greetings. Instead, a cold voice came through the communication system. This is Captain Reeves of the Nexus Collective salvage ship Prosperity. Station Meridian is classified as historical salvage under collective charter. We are dispatching a team for retrieval and assessment. Stand by for docking procedures. Marcus felt his chest tighten. This was bad. This was very bad. This station is privately owned, Marcus transmitted back. No docking authorization granted. There was a pause. Then the captain's voice came again, even colder than before. Acknowledged, Meridian. We will extract authorization through legal channels. Expect our team in 4 hours. Marcus turned to Eleanor, who had come to stand beside him in the command center. Her scales were shimmering with fear, a nervous reaction she had developed over the past weeks. They know, Eleanor whispered. Their scanner. It found me. Marcus looked at the sensor readout. 3 different biological profiles had been isolated from Eleanor's location. Human. Unknown. Exotic genetic markers. Very exotic. What I am is valuable, Eleanor said quietly. Last of an extinct species. Genetic archive. I am property now. Marcus felt the old anger rising in his chest. He had spent his whole life watching powerful people take things from those who had nothing. He had watched it in wars, in corporate boardrooms, in hospitals where poor people could not afford treatment. He was tired of it. No, Marcus said. You are not property. You are a person. And I will not let them take you. He spent the next 3 hours moving through the station like a man possessed. His cancer pain was forgotten. His dying body suddenly found strength it did not know it had. He activated old defense protocols that had been dormant for centuries. He rerouted power through systems that the Nexus team would never expect. He rigged external airlocks with failsafes and lockdowns. He was an old military engineer and he knew exactly how to turn a station into a fortress. Eleanor helped him, moving quickly through the corridors, connecting cables, activating systems. She did not ask questions. She trusted Marcus completely. "There," Marcus said finally as he locked down the main docking computer. "They cannot dock now. Not without my authorization codes." The salvage ship circled the station like a shark. Then Captain Reeves spoke again through the comm system. "Meridian, you are making a very serious mistake. The Nexus Collective has legal authority over this station. Compliance is mandatory. If you do not grant docking authorization immediately, we will take action." "What kind of action?" Marcus asked. "We have weapons, Meridian. We will use them if we must." Marcus looked at Eleanor. She was afraid, but she was also strong. She was dragon-touched. She would not break easily. "Listen to me, Captain," Marcus said into the comm. "You fire on this station, and I will do something very dramatic." "What will you do?" Reeves asked, almost laughing. "I will access the primary reactor," Marcus said. "I will begin a controlled overload sequence. The reactor will go critical. This entire station will be destroyed. You fire on me, we both burn. You stay here, we all burn together. So I suggest you leave." It was a bluff. Mostly. There was a long silence. Then Reeves spoke again, his voice less confident now. "You would destroy the station? And yourself?" "I am a dying man, Captain," Marcus said. "I have nothing to lose. But you are a captain of a salvage ship. You have a career. You have a future. Think about that." Another silence. Longer this time. "Meridian, this is corporate piracy. We will have your registry revoked. Your assets will be seized. Your life will be destroyed." "My life is already destroyed," Marcus said. "But this girl, this last dragon-touched person in the universe, she has a life ahead of her. And I will not let you take it." Reeves did not respond for several minutes. In the observation deck, Marcus could see the salvage ship's engines beginning to power up. Eleanor stood beside him, her small scaled hand gripping his arm tightly. "This is not over," Reeves finally said. "The collective will pursue this matter. You cannot hide in this station forever." "Maybe not," Marcus said. "But today we are safe. Today Eleanor is safe." The salvage ship slowly disengaged from the station. Its engines flared with blue light. Then it jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared into the darkness of space. Eleanor and Marcus stood in the observation deck, watching the stars. Neither of them spoke for a long time. Then Eleanor asked, "Would you have done it? Would you have destroyed the station?" Marcus thought about that question. He thought about the reactor overload. He thought about the choice between death and surrender. "Yes," he said finally. "I would have done it. To keep you safe, I would have destroyed everything." Eleanor looked up at this old man who had saved her, who had just defied a powerful corporation for her sake. And she understood that she mattered. She understood that in this vast, uncaring universe, at least one person thought she was worth fighting for. "Thank you," she said softly. Marcus put his arm around her shoulders. Outside the window, the stars burned eternal and beautiful. And together they watched over Meridian Station, waiting to see what would come next. Marcus's cancer did not disappear. That would have been too easy, too simple. Life was rarely that kind. But something changed inside him on the day Eleanor took his hand in the observation deck. Something shifted in his body, in his mind, in his spirit. His immune system, tired and broken as it was, seemed to receive a signal. The signal was simple: there is still something worth fighting for. 2 months passed after the salvage ship left. Marcus's latest medical scans, transmitted to a distant doctor through secure channels, showed something unexpected. The tumors had not grown. In fact, some of them had actually become smaller. The disease was still there, still deadly, still consuming his body slowly. But it had stopped advancing so quickly. It had slowed down. The doctor on the other end of the communication line was confused. "This is unprecedented," she said, her face pixelated on the old screen. "Your condition should be getting worse, not better. Something has changed. What are you doing differently?" Marcus looked at Eleanor, who was working in the background, studying the station's ancient systems on a nearby console. "I found a reason to keep going," he said simply. Eleanor spent the weeks after the salvage ship left diving deep into the station's vast archive. The archive was a massive library of data, stored on ancient crystalline drives that had somehow survived 3 centuries of abandonment. Eleanor moved through this information like an explorer discovering lost treasure. She found schematics for technology that predated modern human civilization. She found blueprints for biological mechanical integration systems. She found genetic optimization protocols that modern science had forgotten existed. She found energy generation methods that could power entire star systems. Her people, the dragon touched, had not been primitive. They had been evolutionary dead ends in a universe that favored adaptability over specialization. But they had been brilliant. One evening, Eleanor spread all of her discoveries across the main terminal in the command center. The screens glowed with ancient symbols and modern translations. Marcus sat beside her, studying the data with the careful attention of a man who had spent his life understanding complex systems. "What if," Eleanor said, her gold eyes bright with excitement, "we made this place not a grave but a beginning?" Marcus studied the projections. "A research station," he said. "A sanctuary," Eleanor corrected gently. "A sanctuary for people like me. 4 hybrid programs. For those who exist between worlds. For those who do not fit into normal society." She turned to look at Marcus. "Your species is learning to reach for the stars again. What if we could teach you? Not as salvage. Not as property. As partners. As equals." Marcus saw it then, like a vision forming in his mind. The old, forgotten station transforming. Lights burning brightly, not as a tomb but as a beacon calling to the universe. Scientists and researchers filtering through the corridors. Eleanor, the last dragon-touched person, helping to bridge the gap between extinct knowledge and modern science. Him, the old veteran mechanic, maintaining the beating heart of it all, keeping the engines running, keeping the station alive. It was a beautiful vision. It was a vision worth living for. They spent the next 3 months preparing. Marcus repaired more systems than he thought possible. He rebuilt the research laboratories. He restored the communication arrays to full power. He created new power distribution networks. Every machine he fixed was another piece of the puzzle. Every system he restored was another promise kept. Eleanor worked alongside him. She studied the ancient archives and began translating the most important information into modern formats. She created databases of genetic knowledge, energy technology, and construction methods. She organized everything carefully, making it clear and understandable for modern scientists. Together they composed a message. It was a simple message sent out to every research institution, every space agency, every academic organization in the known galaxy. Sanctuary open. Ancient knowledge preserved. All seekers welcome. Meridian Station. Then they waited. The first response came from the Academic Confederacy, a group of scientists dedicated to preserving and sharing knowledge. They were interested. Very interested. They wanted to send researchers immediately. More messages came. A hybrid researcher who had been looking for information about her own genetic heritage. A refugee from a failed colonization attempt who had nowhere else to go. An engineer who wanted to learn about the ancient energy systems. The collective's corporate lawyers sent angry messages threatening legal action, but Marcus deleted them without reading past the first line. 6 months after Eleanor and Marcus sent their message, the first ship arrived at Meridian Station carrying the first researchers. Then came another ship and another. The station filled with voices and purpose for the first time in 300 years. Scientists worked in the laboratories studying Eleanor's genetic data, running experiments, making discoveries. Engineers examined the ancient schematics, trying to understand systems that had been lost to history. Eleanor moved among them, translating, explaining, sharing the knowledge of her people. Marcus walked through the corridors of his station, checking systems, repairing damage, maintaining the engines. The station hummed with life. The corridors that had been dark and silent were now filled with light and sound. The machines that had been broken were now working perfectly. The old man and the dragon-touched girl had brought a dead place back to life. One evening, Marcus stood in the observation deck, watching Eleanor speak with a group of visiting scientists. She was explaining the legacy of her people, sharing genetic data, describing dreams of resurrection programs that might one day bring back her species' gifts to the galaxy. She was radiant. She was purposeful. She was alive in a way that Marcus had never seen before. She caught his eye across the room and smiled. That smile was everything Marcus needed to see. Later, as they worked together in the main engineering bay, Eleanor asked him the question she had asked once before long ago. "Do you regret it? Saving me?" Marcus considered the question carefully. His cancer had stabilized. He had work that mattered deeply. He had a purpose that extended far beyond himself. He had a friend, and more than a friend, someone who understood loss and transformation and the strange beauty of unexpected second chances. "No," he said. "I came here to die. But I lived instead. We both did." Eleanor squeezed his weathered hand in her scaled one. Outside the viewport, the galaxy burned with countless stars. The forgotten station was forgotten no longer. It was a beacon of hope in the darkness. And in its rebuilt heart, an old mechanic and a dragon-touched woman had found something neither one of them expected to find again. Hope, purpose, and a future worth fighting for. The station hummed with life. The engines ran smoothly. And somewhere in the vast universe, a new dawn was beginning,